You're listening to the Femtrepreneur Show, and this is episode 14. In this episode, we're talking about whether you need to have a service-based business or a coaching business before you can start selling courses. Hey guys, it's Mariah.
And I'm Megan. And this week we are answering Hallie's question. She asked us, what are your thoughts on services before courses? So I'm really excited to talk about this because I do think people ask us things related to this question a lot. Like we talked before we hopped on live that people are asking, oh, do I need to coach a certain number of people before I have a course? Or do I have to offer services? Or do I have to do blah, blah, blah before I can sell courses? So I'm excited to answer that question.
Yeah, I've gotten that question a lot. Like, how many coaching clients do I need to have worked with to be prepared to sell a course or to be like eligible to sell a course? And I think that like at its very core, this question comes down to people wanting permission and people asking for permission. And I think as you, in general, as you grow in your business and as, you know, just like a person who really is truly in control of your own company and your own business, you realize that you don't need permission to do anything. And you don't need to ask someone else if you're ready to do something, if you're ready to create a course, if you feel ready enough to charge a certain amount for your course. It really becomes a question of like, there's no one there for you to ask permission of. So.
Yeah, definitely. I do think it's like, I totally get where people are coming from. And for me, I had a service before I had a course, and I did feel like there are some pros to doing that. You're obviously going to get some more one-on-one experience with your client, so you'll be able to see exactly what their pain points are. Kind of when you're creating a course, the phase where you're really trying to get words from your audience, copy stalking them, really figuring out what they need. You do kind of get that through your client. So I feel like there's definitely a benefit to it, and you can really fine tune your method, but I definitely don't think you have to. And it's like my services ended up not even being what my course was on. Like I offered different services than I ended up teaching in a course.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like, we do see people who are like, well, I really just want to create a course, but I feel like I have to do X for 6 months before I'm ready. Or like, I feel like someone told me that I need to work with 10 coaching clients before I'm qualified. And although, like you said, there's definitely pros to doing that. Like you get market research, you might work with 10 clients and figure out that all of them had the exact same problem. And that's a really good topic that you could create a course about. But you also don't have to. It's just not a prerequisite. And you can do plenty of validation and copy stalking and market research without having to do coaching calls or doing service work beforehand. So it's definitely not something you absolutely have to do. And in terms of the cons, so for me, I didn't want to do that because I really felt like doing the services and coaching one-on-one, like that kind of dollars for hours type thing, I just knew that that was going to take away from the time that I had to make a course. And I think you can really speak to this, Megan, of like, the thing you need to be careful of is if you're thinking, well, I'll work with a couple one-on-one clients, whether it's in a service capacity or it's as a coach or a consultant, and then you think, and in 6 months from now, I'm going to create my course. Think about how much less time you'll have 6 months from now when you have a full roster of clients, and how stressful is it going to be for you to say like, holy crap, I built myself this cage that I now, this business has just become a trap. And now I need to find the time in my full client roster to create a course. I feel like I was, in my one moment of smartness, I saw.
You had a lot of good thinking in advance there.
I thought in advance. I think for me, I was really like, if I start doing something like that, I will not have the time. And that is not a good long-term strategy for me.
Yeah, I definitely can totally attest to what you're talking about. Because especially I was doing services and, I don't know about everyone else. I think it's pretty common when you're a service provider, but it can be really hard to set those boundaries. Like, how many clients can I really have? Like you think you should have a certain number and then you kind of like make exceptions and then suddenly you have more clients than you thought you should have, or they ask for more hours, and like the boundaries there get blurrier, I feel like.
Remember when we had no boundaries?
I know. Do we have boundaries now? Like, who knows?
No.
I'm kidding.
But like, I just remember before you were full-time, it was like and it was like, I could tell, but you kept saying yes to me. And I knew that you were saying yes to other things too. And it was like, and I think you especially could speak to that of like, it's really hard when I was like, hey, can you do 20 hours on top of your 5 other clients and your full-time job?
Yeah, well, definitely. That's what I was going to say is once you know, if you're good at what you do, you probably have good relationships with your clients. You probably want to help them. And so even like saying no gets just harder and harder. And then the time just goes away and you're suddenly going to have no extra time. So I totally agree. And I feel like saying like, let me start over. It's easier to say no to someone who inquires about working with you. Like that's an easier stage to say no to than having to like later on fire them because you're like, oh, I just don't actually have time. Like when I had to like stop working with my clients because I wasn't going to work with clients, just going to work with the entrepreneur, you know, it was a hard thing because I did have good relationships. So like having this conversation of like, sorry to let you down, you know, it was hard. So I definitely didn't have the force. I mean, everything has evolved the way it was meant to. So it all worked out. But I feel like I didn't even consider that having a full client roster would prevent me from doing other things that I might want to do, like courses.
Well, because everyone is thinking like, that's the goal. That's what you want to do. And maybe you take an approach that is like, I am on purpose, not booked out. Like I am not booked out on purpose because ultimately you set yourself a goal that's like within the next 6 months, I want to have a course too. And I don't just want to have like a full roster of clients. And maybe that means that you make sacrifices during that time. I know that that's hard. But I know, you know, in my own business, I've done it too, where it's like, you know what, like I need to drastically cut my expenses for the foreseeable future so that I have the resources to endeavor into something different and something that short term going to be a sacrifice, long term going to be a payoff. So
yeah, I love that point. And I think the entire conversation, if someone's asking this question, their goal is obviously to have a course. Otherwise I feel like they wouldn't be asking this question.
True.
So I feel like there's nothing wrong with doing services, but I do feel like to do it smart, you would either set like a time frame on it or you would actually set those boundaries. Like I'm only going to take 3 clients. This is the maximum hours I will work on my service stuff per week because the rest of the time will be spent on your course. So I feel like that would be how I would do it in hindsight. Like if my goal was a course and I was doing services to make some money and to do some market research and to maybe like refine my signature process, you know, then I would do it like that, like very selective with some good boundaries.
Yeah. I would also say this has a lot to do with your personality. So I feel like I didn't know why I never wanted to do services or like I wasn't really super good at just like selling the one-off hour-long. Like I love when I have a client for 8 months and like we get to really dive deep into their business and I become very involved in their business. I love that. But I don't like just the sort of one-off, like you can pick my brain for 1 hour and it's $200. And like that was what so many people were doing at the time. Yeah. When I first started, it was like, oh, this is like a great way to like make income. And I didn't really know why I wasn't good at that until actually a student of ours, Ashley Sorokas, who she explained it well when she said in her video that she made for us that she was such an introvert that she had tried to do that sort of like hop on a, you know, pay for an hour, hop on a call type coaching. And it was just so draining. And it was so just like exhausting because she's an introvert. And I was like, oh, like that is why I wasn't good at that because it was hard for me to like connect with someone in an hour and like try to get to know their business and do it on that kind of short-term type thing. And the same thing with services. And I think if you're sitting there thinking like, man, like doing services and coaching is like exhausting. It's not energizing to me. It's exhausting to me. Then like go ahead and jump in and create your course about something that you know about, something that you have personal experience in. You do not need to say like, I've gotten these 20 clients this result. I think that for a lot of us, we just have to know that you've gotten that result. You know what I mean? Like, that's really where it starts. It's great if you can say like, you know, these are my 2 clients, they got good results too, but it's not a requirement and it's not going to make you fail. You know, even like when I launched Your First 1K, like I had 3 other people that I had worked with. So I did have like case studies, but mostly I was going from my experience. I was like, yeah, I helped these other people and it's really good to have their endorsement. But mostly I was like, these are all the things I've done. So I think as long as you can say like, you know, if you're thinking like, well, if I don't work with clients, how am I going to get testimonials or case studies? That can really come from your own personal experience too.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. I feel like you just said a whole lot of good stuff. The one thing that I definitely wanted to touch on was the whole services or coaching, either way. I'm kind of saying services to embody both, but that can be draining. Like, that's not time that you're spending that's like super easy. Like, no matter what service you're offering, like assuming that it, you know, like it's going to be draining, like whether it's coding or whether it's like administrative work, like it doesn't matter. You are going to be more drained. So it's not like just time, like anytime we do more interactive stuff, we're like wiped out the rest of the day. It's like, okay, doing nothing else all day today, the end.
Yeah, it's very intensive and it's not something, you know, it's like you need recovery time. And I think if you know that about yourself, like if you know, like, yeah, like I resonate with what they're saying right now. I am, you know, introvert, doesn't matter. But if you just know about your personality, like, yeah, I totally feel like that. Like I'm just not I'm not energized by working with clients in any capacity, then just know that no one is forcing you to go through, you know, people have this sort of like pay your dues mentality. And I think that comes from the rest of the world, like where it's like, you need a degree in order to get a job. You need this, you need that. I've always, since a very young age, not done any of those things and always been like against the sort of pay your dues mentality. So I think I kind of brought that to this as well. I was almost just like, well, I don't care if they say I should do this with 100 clients before I'm qualified to make a course, like F that. So I think, you know, if you can feel that in yourself too, I want you to embrace that.
Yeah. I mean, really, this is almost touching on like a bigger business principle, which is that no matter what you're doing in your business, you should be excited about it. Like if creating a course doesn't excite you, maybe you shouldn't make one. like if you don't want to have services, don't have them. Like you don't have to do these things. Like there are other ways to do your business and to run your business and to bring in money. So I feel like it's all about self-awareness and you should be excited. Like if the idea, like Hallie's asking this, if she wants to do services, like if that excites her, she should do services, like to whatever extent she wants. So I just wanted to touch on that.
I think that's a great point.
Not to be on a soapbox, but.
No, but I think it's also like, the other thing is that not everyone is good at, like, let's say like services, working with clients, coaching, or creating courses. Not everyone is built or good, like built to do all 3 of those things. And like not everyone, like just because those are 3 types of online businesses, like that doesn't mean that you're going to be good at all of those at the same time. And I know for me, I was like, wow, I am not good at services. Like I just suck. I'm not detail oriented. I'm not like, I just could never, I can't listen to direction. Like I just would be terrible at that, but I'm good at teaching and like, I like teaching, and I'm even not even super good at like necessarily like one-on-one, like hour-long coaching calls. I really need like a longer breathing space in order to like help people in a deeper way. And I feel like I'm good at teaching, but I'm not good at the other 2 things. So I feel like it's okay for you to be like, yeah, I'm super bad at, like, you're not required to be good at all those different types of businesses at all.
I love that. That's such a good point. I feel like this was such a good conversation to have. I feel like we get this type of question a lot. And I feel like you said at the very beginning, it kind of touches on people wanting permission. And we always love to encourage people to just do it. Like you don't need permission. You don't have to follow certain rules. You don't have to follow Mariah and I's advice. Like you're supposed to take all of this and then make it work for you and your business. And hopefully this type of conversation is just empowering and you can walk away and have a business you love.
Yeah, just like throw everything we just said out the window and do it your own way. No, but really, I think it's like you said, it's like if you need permission, I'm giving it to you. I do that in my other course too, where I'm like in the tiny transition course. I'm like, if you need someone to give you permission to get rid of that thing that you're holding on to, I'm that person. I just gave you permission. So I think, if you need that, I'm giving it to you now. But just know that ultimately you don't need it. And so just throw it out the window and do whatever makes you most excited. So
definitely. Well, if you liked this episode, go to thefemshow.com/14 for the show notes to this episode and any of the resources we mentioned while we were chatting.
And please subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes and leave a rating and a review. I know that it seems small, but reviews make a really big impact for us, and they help us bring amazing guests for you every single week and bring the best strategies to you every single week for free. So don't forget to go to thefemshow.com and submit your question. If you want to ask a question just like Hallie did that we answered today, go to thefemshow.com, submit your own question.
Yes, and if you want to discuss this episode with us and anything about courses, make sure to join our whole community of awesome entrepreneurs who are creating their own courses. And go join us on Facebook at thefemshow.com/community. You'll get our Facebook group there, and we'll let you in as soon as we can.
All right, we'll see you next week.